Hello, welcome to my channel for Evolved Humans. I'm Ms. Day. The first thing I heard when I laid this one out was Jim Rohn saying that to transform your life, you have to transform your mind. And that's exactly what this is about. This reading is definitely, I feel that you have had, it's like you can't be complete. Like if your goal is self growth, like self transformation, it feels like, then you have to decide what your values are and then align your mind with those values. So it's like you can't want a really healthy sort of resulting lifestyle around you if you don't actively make your mind attuned to that type of experience. So, very intricate about self-development. This one feels so much about like I was hearing those words. Self-development. So to transform your life, you have to transform your mind. The oddness of it is, it's almost like you can be too open-minded. You can be so open-minded. Okay, so I'm hearing someone who said, I think I might have mentioned this in another reading, I'm not sure, but someone recently on YouTube said in a video like, and then like someone else that I know, and then this other group that I'm aware of. Yeah, it's like, you know those, I heard some people talking as if drinking a whole bunch of water and never drinking alcohol and eating fresh foods as much as possible and always getting this type of vitamin in on your day, on, you know, in your daily routine. I'm picturing the people who talk about that, and I just keep hearing this one who said, I mean, I'm not insane. Like, we don't have to be insane about self-care and self-discipline. And the reality is, isn't that in itself insane? That it would be less comfortable to consider doing everything in your power to provide yourself the best health possible. It's like, you know, to be insane is to be just completely out of balance and to not perceive reality in a way that aligns with the way reality actually is. And I think that to think that too much care for yourself is overkill or over the top, I think that that is a way of actively perceiving reality in a way that is not real and knowing it. Because it is a little nutty to think that super hyper focusing on your health above all else is nutty. So the part of your health that I think this reading is focused on, it is because it instantly started with the mind thing, but like the thing that I was picturing in my mind was thoughts and weighing out which thoughts are worth keeping and which thoughts are worth getting rid of. And I think that that type of thought where you can look at something healthy for yourself and override that reality with, oh, well, I don't care, I do this instead. Oh, well, I know I need to get that much sleep, but I do my own thing at night and I do this instead. I think that overriding what you know to be better, like you know better, I think that is your next step. Because in no area, like it looks like you have awareness and emotional awareness. I think that you have a need to align your actions with your values. And that means your real values. Not the values that you can say, but not really think about. And that's another thing that I wasn't sure if it was going to come in, but I did a couple of readings before this one. And it's like you need to place what you care about into your mind. And that's something that I learned from my experience with people and what we do with our brain and the content in it. If you don't think about it, you don't actively produce an emotion about it. You can't care about something that you don't willingly think about. You can't. Care is not a floating thing. It is something that is the result of an emotion. So if you experience thinking about self-care and you override it with another thought that actually knocks that caring thought about you right out of the park, then you don't care about yourself as much as you may think you do. It doesn't sit in a box until you open it up. It's kind of like how I think someone said once that had a near-death experience, or they had a back-to-life experience. They said that when they experienced leaving the body, they kind of heard all of these yells and cries of, no, 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 not yet, not yet, not yet. And that, I don't have any reason to think that you would hear screams without vocal cords in the air. So I'm not trying to say that's a reality. But I also feel like the reality of time moving can be ignored just as simple as I need to drink more water. I need to eat vegetables. I need to take in this type of vitamin more so during this time of year because this sun doesn't touch me. There are so many realities that make us able to interact with our immediate environment on the daily better. And it's to not be willing to do that. Just consider having a best friend who knows that they should pay attention and stop ignoring that you ask them not to drink your apple juice. It's you have to be your own best friend. And that means that what you know, you know better. If you know better, then you need to do better for yourself. And if you don't think about yourself and you don't think about how to care for yourself, then you don't care about yourself actively. And that's for sure. You can't care about a person and not think about them. So what I was thinking of, though, was how so many times in life, in my life personally, which I feel like someone must have experienced for it to be coming into my brain, they left. They died before I had the opportunity to say certain things, right? But the reality is I didn't say certain things before they died. And it's that's the thing. There are some truths that no matter how you spin it, the weight is on your shoulders to heal from what it is that you see, what you've really seen. And if you don't care for your own self, your needs, sometimes we avoid that because we have to come up with a reason as to why we didn't care about that before, why we weren't taught to do so, or why it's so normal for people to think it's wild and crazy to care about your own health on a regular basis. So when you're clearing out your mind, it's really about examining your thoughts. I feel like this is all about your own head. And the fact that you are already fully, like you are an emotionally intelligent person, it just doesn't seem like something that you project, even at yourself. So I feel like you can sort through the contents of your mind and trust your judgment. You know, there's nothing weird about writing down what thoughts to get rid of, too. There are certain sentences that, from my experience with people, family and working with people, where there are certain thoughts that we can get so used to thinking, and we don't recognize that that's a thought we can actually grab hold of and rewrite. It may take several rewrites to stop it from coming in, but you can do that. It's just about what you're going to focus on. And if you consider that if you transform your mind, that's how you transform your life, then wouldn't every single thought matter? If that's true, then shouldn't every single thought matter? Like, this is not a very large space to fill. So if you can ping around all the thoughts ever, and you have no idea which ones are shaping your current reality, then how can you shape your future reality as you want it to be? That's how insane it is to focus on this operating at its highest potential. It's so insane that it's the only way to create the results you want. So the way that you can look at it when you're sorting through your thoughts is like kind of weighing it. I always think about the ancient Egyptian scale thing, where the story of Ma'at, where she weighs the truth versus her feather, and that weight of your heart, I think, is what makes you able to pass through. And so just consider in your mind high-level thoughts and low-level thoughts. And I have a note for myself personally where it's not a daily affirmation, it's an instruction. I inform myself of what I need to do specifically in this vehicle so that I'm in control of it. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to slip up. That means that when I slip up, I'm going to remember exactly how to take control of it again. Like, I'm going to remember these words because I just read them this morning. Like today, I just read these this morning. And it's to protect your mind from low-level thoughts. There's just one of them. One of the sentences I have written down for myself. Protect your brain from low-level thoughts. And so when you're going through the contents of your mind, if it's a daily thing, which it feels like this should become a daily thing, and I wouldn't settle for thinking that it's silly, because this certainly seems to be needed, but it's like low level and high level. Well, low level produces a slow reaction or a low level reaction, and high level produces a weightless one. And so if you feel an immature pull with a thought or a negative emotion with a thought, then it's one to examine and get out. It's one to process through because it has a negative emotional tie to it. So to become attuned to a higher vibration out here, you have to fine tune your thoughts to align with a higher vibration. And the thing is, you already have those thoughts. It's just about removing the low level ones and recognizing them as simple as that, where it's like, well, sure, I know I need to do that, but it's the same way that they say all over the place that no one should say, I love you, but I'm sorry, but. Like if you have a but following it, it usually makes a person feel like the first half of that sentence might be dismissed because of the second half. And that's how specific you have to be with your thoughts. Like if you really want to transform your life, then you really have to evaluate what you're creating, because it's in here that like produces the result. Okay. These readings are really intense. And I feel like it's like the holiday season, so I kind of hoped these would all just be like warm and fuzzy, but instead they feel like just full of instruction. Maybe that's because of asking, though. Maybe that's because like you're asking for instruction. Because this seems like someone who's extremely emotionally experienced. Like I feel like you have a lot. That's another part of this where it's like I keep picturing writing things down. And I think that you have a lot of experiences that maybe you ought to write down. Maybe you ought to write down, I experienced blah, blah, blah. And sometimes we have to slap a word on it, even though I'm like super anti labels on a person. I'm all about labels on a behavior if you're trying to train yourself out of it. Because, I mean, I will use the word, I hate this word, but even the word abuse, like, you know how people will say, oh, well, he's an abuser. I think that's a human who's behaving in an abusive way. And like the behavior is abuse. So it's like if you write what you've experienced externally, it isn't personal. It's not a personal label. You're not saying I experienced an emotional or an addict. I experienced. So it's not about like you have to go through your whole story and all the details of it. This is literally about what you have experienced as far as what you've endured. Like what have you endured? Because I think that's given you a lot to work with, but also a lot of stuff that you need to see for yourself in order to release it out of your brain. Because knowing your chapter, that'll never go away. But releasing pockets where it sort of just isn't fully processed yet, all that's going to do is take you leaps and bounds forward really quickly. And you didn't gain all of that information very quickly. Like it feels like this is from your whole life here. And you deserve a transformative state. If it's time for a message to come, it comes out. That's when the words are articulated properly in front of your face. So like if a reader out here says it's timeless, that their readings are timeless or whatever, it just means that at another point in time and space, you may need to hear these words, whereas at this first moment, you may not need it yet. You're in another moment. And this seems like you're in a moment where you've already earned your transformed life. Now you need to be able to experience it. Sometimes it's hard to do that when you don't have faith in anything going according to plan. And I get that entirely because I don't believe in because, plans fail all the time and that's great for so many reasons. But it's also just the way of life. Like, the only constant is change, because that's what happens. Like, things just constantly move. And so if there's a thought that repeats itself, then take that as a sign that that's something of yours that isn't moved yet. It's not moved, and it should move. And what you want is a lot of motion. If your goal is a whole new experience, then what you want is to be able to make all of this loose. You want it to be loose. You want new thoughts, and you want them to be able to have a direct line to the thoughts that they align with. So that means the things that are not aligned with anything for any particular reason, they're just there because you've walked through life with them. Like, there are times with my children where we reach a new period and it's been like 3 years, and or maybe it's been a year and a half, and I'm like, you know what? You know how to say this word differently, so I expect you to say it now. Instead of me making sure you know how, it's time for you to pick that ball up on your own. But sometimes you have to tell them to do that. That's hilarious. It reminds me of this one time in my kids' elementary school, before the pandemic, when we could go and have lunch with our children at the grade schools. Then she was in junior high when the schools opened back up. But anyway, I went to have lunch with her in the little cafeteria once, years ago, and it was so funny because I sat in a group of them all, and I realized, and it was so early, it might have been first or second grade, and it was just hilarious because they were so quiet, and I was like, well, what did you bring for lunch? And like, somebody asked a couple of questions, and then this one child was like, do you drink coffee? My mom likes coffee. And I was like, I love coffee. And then we just started talking, and then all the kids were talking about their moms and if they drank coffee, and how their dads don't drink coffee, they drink pop or soda or whatever. It's like, it was so cute because they didn't know how to just start talking. Like, they didn't know how to just interact together. And so I had to start doing it. And then they all did it. And then it's just one of my favorite memories. But anyway, that's what this is. This feels like between you and yourself, you have to look at your whole timeline and see what you took with you, because there are weird little things that we take with us too. Like, there are weird little quirky lines that some of us get stuck on. And then when you don't have a parent out here saying, stop saying that, stop doing that, we get stuck on it, So it's important to change. Like, even change is good. Like, that's reality. It's good to change things up, because then you know better what you want to keep. That's what that's about. And that's what this is about, because it's all about aligning your values with what you do, with what you think about, and how you think about it, how you articulate your thoughts, how you articulate your words. You're allowed to expand. You're allowed to change yourself and to grow. You don't have to hold yourself anywhere because other people are used to you being a certain way. That's a reason to pull back. I've pulled back from a lot of people this year because of that, where they expected me to be a certain way, and they really tried to enforce that I wasn't a different way than they wanted me to be. And I had to just get out of there. Like, I'm not going to exist as a false version of myself. Instead, I'm just going to go exist as my version of myself that continues growing and changing and doing different things and learning different things, because I know that that aligns with my values and what I believe in and what I have faith in. And this is kind of about that too, where it's like, if you have faith in anything, have faith in what you can overcome. And overcome it. You've already done so. This is more about nitpicking the thoughts in your brain and the words that you use. I feel like words are really important, and it's important to let yourself change those up too, to keep a fresh mind, to keep your mind moving. Okay. Interesting. It's like cold outside, and I feel like all of the walls of my house just kind of creaked. from the cold. That was an interesting moment. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this is beneficial. These are really harsh, so I hope that nobody's offended. And I appreciate you if you're a subscriber. If you're not and they resonate at all, definitely subscribe, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye.